Nigeria, with its massive youth population, has the potential to lead with technology revolution. But turning potential into progress will require stronger policies, digital infrastructure, and willpower. As tech experts gather this month in Lagos at what is considered Africa's largest technology summit, the expectation is that it will set the tone for how the continent navigates its next wave of digital transformation. For more on this, I'm joined by senior tech writer, Tech Cabal, Frank Leah, who joins me live in the studio. Frank, good to see you again.
Good to see you.
Absolutely. Tech Cabal calls Moonshot a movement, not a conference. But beyond the excitement, what story is Africa's tech ecosystem really telling right now? Are we building sustainable value, or we're just chasing the next funding wave?
I think that we've come a very long way. The tech ecosystem in Africa. What we have found is that from 2016 up until 2025, there's been a tremendous shift from where we used to be before. In 2016, you probably had young tech companies just coming in and trying to build innovations. But we've gotten to the point where we became the center of attraction of many investors. So you have 2018, you have 2019, where we received the largest funding in the tech ecosystem. 2020, Nigeria began to top the continent, topped up until 2022. 2023, there was a lag, and then we have another lag in 2024. Kenya was top over Nigeria, and now in the first half, there's been a little bit of recovery that's happening. About $1.4 billion has been raised on the continent. And the big four, we're talking about Egypt, we're talking about South Africa, then Nigeria is third, and then Kenya comes in at fourth. And then you have the fintech companies that are now, that are back again. They've been top anyway. But aside from fintech, we're also beginning to see attention being given to areas like health tech, ed tech, house tech, actually. And then you also have e-commerce beginning to pick up a little bit of momentum here and there and all that. And then you have food tech. So you're talking about companies like Chowdeck and the rest of them, Global, that are now beginning to make a lot of boards in the market. So there's been a lot of innovation that has happened, and from the hype that we used to hear before. It used to be a hype industry, you know, young boys pressing computers here and there. But now we have moved beyond the hype. We're now in an area where investors are saying we need to see traction, we need to see sustainability, we need to see your numbers, and then we're also seeing those numbers beginning to come out.
So Moonshot is bringing together founders, investors, and policymakers. But do you think that these conversations really translate into tangible policy shifts or economic outcomes on the ground? Have you seen a shift from just the talk, to walking the talk?
Most of the innovations that we've had so far have come from some of this talk that we're seeing. If you recall, there used to be a time when the biggest tech events in Africa happened abroad. They were happening in London, they were happening in the US, and people began to ask questions. Why are you taking conversations that are supposed to be for the continent outside the continent? But that was also because of the fact that we didn't have the size, the quality of events that were supposed to be out there, or that were supposed to attract the kind of investors. Because why they were taking it outside was because investors tend to want to come to those places because they are quality events that were being organized. But now it's being reversed. We're beginning to see a lot more of that come into the continent. So you have Kigali, you have South Africa, and now you have Nigeria also placing its foot to say, we can do this as well. Now, when you can provide quality events like the size of the Moonshot, what you then have is that you attract all the kind of investors that you want to attract. Because before, don't forget that I said there was a hype, and then investors were just buying into that hype. But now you're bringing together the entire ecosystem, the people who are actually making these innovations happen. Then investors want to meet them at that venue, and they want to talk to them. So it's not just about the talk that's happening out on the stage. You're also talking about the networking that's going to happen. You're also talking about people being able to pitch to say, this is what I'm building, and this is what the next big thing in Africa is all about.
One big word from your presser this year is scaling. When you look at Nigeria and Africa's broader innovation landscape, what does scaling really mean in this context? Are we looking at valuation impact, or it's about survival in a tough economic climate?
I think beyond valuation, which personal opinion, I don't think helped the conversation in years past, because there's a lot of bogus valuations that we had in the past. But what scaling means now is when you talk about AI, for instance, in 2019, it was just a little segment of the discussion. It wasn't that big. Then you have OpenAI coming, and all of a sudden we had overnight 100 millions of people, leveraging this platform, building stuff on it, asking questions about chatbot. And before you know it, you start seeing Perplexity, you start seeing different AI models coming in and all that. And then you now start hearing Nigeria say, oh, we're also building our own LLM, and then states also saying we want to build LLMs that speak Nigerian languages, so that's scaling. So at that level, you're seeing all these innovations begin to come out of their shell, where they used to be before, just one tiny segment being discussed. So we're talking about food. Food used to be maybe someone just do logistics and then send it to your home. But at the level where we're talking about Glovo, we're talking about Chowdeck, we're talking about different companies, in that food space. So that conversation has been elevated. So that's what scaling is about. Is all about.
Good place to leave it. I was just hoping that you could. Tech is at the center of it all right now.
Exactly.
So as a journalist, Moonshot 2025, why should I be there?
The question should be, why shouldn't you be there? Because if you're not where the investors are talking about what the next big thing they want to put their money in,
you probably don't know where the money is going to.
Of course. I mean, and thinking about the fact that in the past 2 years, funding hasn't met up with expectations, and just now, like I said, beginning to crawl back. Investors are now looking for very, very serious startups that are just not saying, oh, I've got one shiny thing happening and come put money in it. But right now, you're looking at an ecosystem being built solid. Indeed. We didn't used to have what we used to call ecosystem before, wasn't what it was. But now it's being built now, because you have infrastructure backing it. You have different sustainability backing it. You have corporate governance also coming in. Then you have regulators now sitting up to say, we're going to put this and this in place, checkmate, so that you don't just do anything you like when you're in this industry. So that's what it's all about.
Senior tech writer, Tekaba Frankenlayer, thank you for talking to us.
Thank you so much.
Elsewhere now to Delta